Good morning. Good morning. We'll wait for a few others to join and then let's start. Okay, good morning again. Okay, I got two drafts. One from Saran. Saran, I sent your response. You had a chance to look at it?
Not quite as yet.
Okay, all right. And then Simone, I got yours.
Hi, good morning.
I read your comment.
Okay.
I see your approach.
Uh-huh.
The first paragraph is not needed.
Oh, okay.
No. You just
Okay.
need to put the question.
Okay.
All that you said in that first paragraph
Uh-huh.
should be embodied in your explanation.
Okay. But
Okay.
the product that I chose, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
And your comment about the penalties is
Right.
correct. Yeah, don't say
Okay.
something not real. So,
Oh, okay.
so when you start off, you're starting off with immediate action.
Okay.
Okay. If you wanted to, you could just before that, you could make a one sentence with your product
Okay.
and who the regulator is, but all the rest of that you don't need.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And then for immediate action,
Uh-huh.
they want to know why. Now, these 3 bullet points is worth 30 points.
Right.
Right. So you're more or less giving it 10 points each.
Right.
So in this immediate action, you have to be able to convince the regulator why you have decided this is your immediate action. You've actually given them the steps, but you have to say why you are doing what you're doing. And that why comes from your summation of the risks that you have identified.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Then when you come to the second bullet point, the second bullet point is a build on from the first one.
Right.
So the first paragraph that you wrote is not who you would see first.
Okay.
Right, because in part 2 is where you address that.
Right.
So once you have identified what the issues are, what the risks are connected with it, in line with your product, then you decide who you're going to liaise with and why.
Okay. Okay.
So everything from part 1 to the very end of part 2 is a build-up or expansion.
Right. Okay. Okay.
All right. And I don't remember seeing any others. Saran, you looked at yours? I know I sent you some screenshots.
Just trying to look at those screenshots now.
Yeah, on my handwriting.
Yeah. All right, I have first immediate action page open. Okay. I think I said to put a list as opposed to putting the things in a paragraph. And change my second paragraph around somewhat. I think you said start with policy procedures, then go into I think go into my documentation. That's what you're saying for
introduce partners, identifying gaps.
Right.
But notice the first paragraph, I want you to watch writing in past. Your past, they don't like those.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have it circled and I have watch past participles.
Yes.
Yeah, don't write like that. And the one above that with the question mark, I have some other ones further down. Don't write in that language.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And then when you go to the next page, another circle word. Those circle words means don't use. The other one underlined with a question mark. I don't know what you were trying to say there. So you could just read that again. And then that sentence, it would also be important. Yeah, that's a clumsy sentence. I'm saying, why not just state who the partner is and why you need them?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when we get to the next one, where you start with older, I'm just asking you to speak, to say, what are you speaking to?
Oh,
I
guess.
Yeah.
Past versions, probably. When I talk about older, like if it's no longer up to date, that they need to take an eye and perhaps say, we can make changes here because this is no longer an up-to-date documentation. The version is not consistent with.
But what's the risk? What's the risk you're bringing up?
Maybe something might have changed in the legislation.
So that's risk you're speaking of. Right. So you have to. Okay. When I finish, then I'll explain it because Simone have the same, more or less like the same thing. The way in which it is written.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more a case of what is written, not how it's written, not what is written.
Yes.
Okay.
It's how it's written.
Okay.
Okay. when you look at prioritizing next step, you see right there in Thingham, right in. And then too many words. And then I circle that thing again.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, writing that all over the place.
All right. I gotcha.
Okay. And the next sentence when you says business line managers, and then I comment on that the risk department is also weak.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked about that, I think further down in the paper somewhere, but I guess you want me to reintroduce it up and at this section of the paper.
Yeah, that's another thing. You build as you go. You build, like I was telling Simone, and then you expand.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next paragraph, my writing on the side says, are you sure this is the measure you include in such a critical problem? I don't want you to go too granular. Try not to weigh away from risk or from the whole topic of GRC.
But wouldn't they want?
Take it more high level.
Okay.
It could mean the same thing, but take it high.
But I mean, talking about quality assurance, should you state here, Ms. Archer, how that's going to be affected? Like, who's responsible for doing it?
Yes. So who's responsible? You don't need to go down this far.
Just say that the department has to make changes.
Department or the department head.
The department head has to make changes.
Right.
Without going into the granularization of who in the department has to make the change.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you've gone down too far.
Okay.
Now part 2. Simone, you didn't start part 2 yet. Now part 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. And all of those parts, you are communicating to the board. So when you communicate to the board, you have to write risk focus because you're head of risk. So your language is now totally risk focused. And you explaining to them about the consequences and the likelihood of the risk. So when you start off at the overview is summarizing everything you did in A in as few words as possible. So you letting the board know now, like a risk report, the current situation and how you intend to address it in summary. So you see, I take that word out. Now, normally when you write to the board, it's a report. So if it's a report, it's normally written in memo style. So they say, write a short report. So in a short report, you would still have a heading. If you don't want to put the heading, if you're over your word count, then just start with how you would start with the very first paragraph. So take out that first word you have there and just say to the board. That's
okay.
And instead of saying the word following, just say this report. This report is prepared to provide. Take all of them past principles out of that. They don't like that. It's either present or past. And then watch words. Like you like to use the same word twice in the sentence. You see how I have them underlined there? Yeah. And then on the next page, page 6.
Get to that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I have I have here that the way you wrote this is written like minutes. You're not writing minutes to a board, you're writing a report. So a report states the facts.
Okay.
This is what it is. This is why I'm doing it. And these are the steps I intend to take based on X, Y, and Z. So my question to you then is, I'm asking you, what should the board be concerned with? You have a different audience now. What are you trying to bring to the board's attention based on part A, on part 1? What are you trying to tell the board? What do you want them to know? What is going to change?
I guess you would want them to know that, hey, there is a serious IRS assessment is seriously broken, for lack of a better word. The whole, it needs to be revamped. It needs to be changed. It needs to be made more
robust,
more efficient, effective, cohesive. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get them to understand, that there's a problem right there. Even before we even get to the any particular issues with the product, there's a problem with our risk assessment. Right.
So that's and we all agree with that in the last class, that the risk assessment is what is needed. And to build around that risk assessment, you already know from the scenario that governance was also an issue because the reports were not going to them in a timely manner, and obviously it was inaccurate. And senior management was not playing their role. So you have a top-down situation too.
So, I mean, so how do you kind of diplomatically approach it? Because from a top-down perspective, it seems that the board was falling asleep at the wheel. They themselves need to be chastised.
Well, it's twofold. One, someone on the board should have knowledge of risk. 2, senior management was responsible to advise the board of the risk. Compliance was responsible for every product and service, making sure that the risks were addressed. Policies and procedures were being followed. Depends on the size of the organization, then you also would have had internal audit. So it's all the players together. The board can only decide on what's presented to them by senior management. But that's also something that you could put in part 2D and looking at the strategies and mitigating the key identified risks. How do we get governance to where it should be? And so when you talk about 2B, you have to mention some risk. Your risk assessment is supposed to be identifying the risk associated with the products. So even though you have identified one product, which is in comparison to a competitor, you also now have to look at, after you've read the whole scenario, that there are other risks. So you want to give the board a holistic picture of the risk in the company, because their sanctioning by the regulator could be worse than their competitor, based upon what you as the new senior officer has identified of all of the issues that they have.
So what we're saying here is that the regulators could potentially come in here and review the product because of what happened with the other company. But when they get in and they do a deep dive and see that the whole risk assessment process is broken, we could have greater penalties.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Okay.
So now you see why I always say You have to write this 4 and 5 times.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the likely consequences, that's the result of your risk assessment based on the risks that you have identified. And then I put a note at the very bottom, all of. You could read that. I write it very clearly. Page 8, circle words. I don't like those words.
I got that.
Yeah. All right. So when you get to 2D, it would be good if you put some subheadings. Because they've asked for short, medium, and long. Put a small heading, short, medium, and long. Okay. Because the examiner may decide that he wants to zone in from long and then go to short. Or he may want to go from short to long. Because remember, if you put in D, has to relate to what you put in C and B and A. So you can't deviate from that.
Right.
And when you say short, medium, long, you need a period.
Okay.
And whenever you put a period, it has to be achievable.
That's the thing though, Mrs. Archer, if you've never done these before, you've never created timelines with anything, how do I just say, okay, my short timeline was 1 month, my medium time.
The board has to approve it, tone from the top.
Right. So I could put,
when you make your representation, you say, my short-term strategy is 3 months. The board will agree, I disagree. Or the board may say, well, I don't see how you could achieve that. You know, do you have sufficient resources? Do you need to purchase a tool? If you need to purchase a tool and you decide it now, then we either going to do it round robin or we're going to do it at the next board meeting, which is in another quarter. Or we're going to call a special meeting because this is so urgent. We don't know when the regulators are coming. So you have to open your mind to your audience. These are a group of people who only come once every 3 months. Do I have everything that I need to mitigate against these risks? What do I need? An examiner is looking for you to go outside the box. Now, when you would have read chapter 7 in effective regulatory risk, you see that there's a lot of tools out there. Maybe there's a tool that you need to buy. Maybe that is what it is. They were probably doing it manually and they now need an automated system. So your first step could be to buy a system, which now comes at the cost.
So Ms. Archer, then that'll be assumed then, right? That, you know, they were using, I mean, I can't remember. I don't think it's mentioned that they had a manual system. So we just assuming that they need, you know, this tool that they may not have already.
If I wouldn't say assume.
Okay.
You can say the approach is to use a technological platform to address regulatory risk.
Okay.
And this involves either the purchase of a brand new tool or an update to the existing tool.
Okay. All right.
Because where we are now, everybody uses a tool unless your operation is very small.
Right. Okay.
So you need to tie in the examiner that you know where risk is headed and GRC.
Okay.
So Ms. Archison, you could kind of say something like, you know, we need a technological tool, and with the technological tool, it'll be able to print out reports that could be used by internal audit as a control and monitoring features then, so something like that.
Right, and also provide timely report to the board.
All right, and then provide timely report as opposed to depending on a manual summon going after the fact and checking these things.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, what else I have here? Okay. I think you could read my little handwriting.
That's favorite to read, so yes.
Let's see.
Ah,
Your short term is very short. It's very
yeah.
your is very long. How you intend to do this?
So my short term is very short, my long term is very long.
No, your short term is very long.
Oh,
You're doing all these things in the short term. How is that possible?
but didn't I say with increased manpower? But you're saying even with increased manpower, it's still too short to do what I have in my short term.
Remember now, increased manpower means cost. Increased manpower means training.
Mm-hmm.
Can that be the short term?
No, that's more of a longer term perspective if you're bringing in someone to train.
Okay. And where does medium start?
Yeah, that's not clear.
No, I couldn't find it, especially as you were shoring up so much. I don't know what that meant.
So, I mean, it's a thin line between, not thin line, but medium term is not more of a difficult concept to grasp on. You could get to short term.
Mm-hmm.
But medium term
It's what you do in the middle.
Yeah, it's what you do in the middle. But what do you do in the middle of training?
Exactly.
I know it's exactly that, but I'm asking myself. I had to figure out what do I do in the middle of training that can be considered a medium term effect as opposed to another short term effect.
No, you could do training. You can do compliance reviews. You could do in an audit, external audit reviews. There are things to be done.
External audit review could be something medium term. Internal, okay. Okay, maybe an internal review is more medium term because they take a while, but not as long as long term. Okay. Okay, that's a more of a medium term. All right, good.
In medium term, you could have policies and procedures amended.
True.
Yeah, there are things to be done.
Okay.
You can conduct another risk assessment. And that's in that 6 to 8 months period in medium. There's a lot of different things you can do.
Okay.
Breathing hard.
There's a lot of work to do. And
yeah. I always tell students, why do you think they are spaced out in this manner? Because it requires a lot of work. It does.
So Ms. Arthur,
yeah.
In terms of who I said I would liaise with, am I on the right track or?
Hold on, I have yours on the computer.
Okay.
The first one I told you no.
Oh.
The first paragraph, think about it. Hold on, let me pull you up. Okay. Yeah, your first paragraph under your subheading. Liaise. Why you liaise with them? How that's supposed to work?
Yeah, that's kind of backward.
Yeah. Didn't say it.
Okay.
All right, then go to your next paragraph. How that work? You're getting like on now. You are, what's your role? Senior risk, right?
Right.
Okay, that's where you go in?
I guess I probably wasn't looking at this from the perspective of who I am. It's just all these people need to do better. You know what I mean? It wasn't like me looking at it from what my role was. So I guess that's where I,
go from it from your role.
right.
Issues.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And then the next one, that one is fine.
Okay.
And then the other one you have here is it depends on how the company is structured. But that one is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, but this is not a paper. This paper is not a paper which you could grab and sit down and write it in a week.
Right.
It is not one of those papers.
None of these.
Remember, I told you all from AML side, GRC is nothing like AML. So even though this question is focusing on the R, you still have to comment on the G, which is part 2, and you still have to comment on the C, because it's included in part 1 and part 2. But the majority of it is focused on the R part of it, of GRC.
Right. Okay.
So it's just you two that I heard from. So let's go to the questions at the back of page 281 at the end of unit 7. So from the 2 papers that I received, I want you to write more risk language. And a lot of the risk language is in unit 7. So yes, in your first draft, like how you did it, Saran, that's your first draft. A lot of the long sentences you had could be shortened by using the risk language.
Okay.
Right? And remember, to start in anything to do with risk, before you even start your risk assessment, is risk appetite. Risk tolerance. You have to speak like a senior risk officer. That's how you're going to write. So you're going to take the words that you've written and you need to put some of those words into risk language. What happened?
No, I was just thinking, okay, you said they talked about risk appetite, but the fact that you're already selling this product speaks to the fact that this is the appetite of the company already has.
Oh no, oh no.
No?
Some companies sell things. They don't have a written risk appetite. Yeah. Everybody don't have a risk appetite, and some people don't even go back and review their risk appetite to see if the product wasn't risk assessed and fit and fit in to see what is our risk tolerance for that product. Then it's just a product that's, oh yeah, the competitors are doing it, they're making money, let's do it too.
So you're saying we could approach it from that aspect as well as saying, okay, yeah, we have this product and it may be potentially bringing us an income, but it's not a part of where our appetite is now.
No,
Joe, ever was.
No, you could just say we we would have to, as a part of the process, we will assess our risk appetite and our risk tolerance for this product.
Okay.
Yeah, and examiner knows that you will be including that in your whole risk assessment and your whole risk framework.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to question 5. There's a lot of silent people on, so those silent ones are going to talk now because they're the ones that read the chapter in detail. So question 5 says there are many developments in risk management methodologies, the use of technology, and some of these are opportunities and some could be threats. Review the most significant developments and evaluate their possible impacts on a regulated business. Who want to comment on that? The developments in risk management and the use of technology. I know you read the chapter, or the unit as they call it. What did you learn? Omar, Maria, Delicia. It's quiet. I don't want anybody to get discouraged, you know. So should I just open it up to anybody who wants to answer question 5 or comment on question 5? Because you could use this as a part of your long-term strategy. Simone?
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What's the question again, please? This is in chapter 7, right?
Chapter 7, the last page, 281, the task. Number 5.
Could be review the most significant developments and evaluate the possible impacts on a regulated business. So how developments in risk management methodologies and the use of technology could impact, for example, the business that we're looking at in the question that we have for this?
Yes, you could do it in general because the chapter speaks to it in general and gives you some examples. Or you could even use it in the question, or you could use it in the day's world. They had a conference this week. You could even apply it in there.
Okay, I'll take a stab because I was thinking about the conference that they had, Deltec and the Bahamas, crypto Bahamas conference, and the fact that they're using all of these newer, quote unquote, newer inventions, blockchain, technology, Web3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I guess that this new crypto environment is opening up a lot of opportunities in the financial arena. Like you look at the people attending, these people, you could virtually become like a billionaire overnight if you have, the right product and service, the right innovations, but also it'll open you up to a lot of regulatory sanctions. And I'm thinking about like what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, or even what happens in the Taliban, where they're using these wallets, these crypto wallets, to funnel monies to these terrorist organizations and people. And so it's going to be an opportunity for the business sides, for the risk, to think about ways they can help the product grow and help the product function properly, but at the same time acknowledging that, hey, with all of these the new technologies out there, it brings a whole lot of risk. How do you stop the bad actors from infiltrating and using and operating in the crypto sphere? So it's a double-sided coin. How do you make use of the technological advancements in an opportune way, and how you guard against the explicit threats they have, where you have a lot of, like, China, for example. The reason why we have FTX Digital in the Bahamas is because they left Hong Kong because China had virtually put a block on the freeze on all of those companies doing the crypto sphere, while they try to figure out how they're going to exploit it for their own ends. So yeah, from a general perspective, that's how I guess we got to be thinking in the financial service environment, because we are definitely moving away from the more traditional products. I would say, in my humble view, in the next 10 years, man, it's going to be less about people just using private banking. People gonna be using the crypto. They're gonna be doing wallets. They're gonna be doing digital currencies, digital assets, digitizing, artwork and putting a value to that. So the industry is gonna move from more traditional sphere of banking to this new era.
Yeah, I was going to say just now, Saran, you're going far. That's as far. No, it's very far.
Okay.
You have up now that since COVID, think about it now. Since COVID, millions of people have died. Plus, you have a war going on.
Yes.
And wealth has transitioned from those old people to young people. So you have to look at the client base for clients who come to the Bahamas to do banking and investment businesses. They're not all elderly people anymore.
No, they're gonna be more younger, like Bankman-Fried, wearing short pants and t-shirt.
Right. So you have a different set of clientele who are even richer than their parents.
Yes.
But they've taken that gamble with some of the monies they inherited, and they have made more money. And so you have on one end a clientele that is sophisticated, and on the other side, you have a center that has been disrupted by technology, because these clients want the new technology. So they have to transition to this new technology. So opportunity is there for them to get these clientele and make more money. But then there's also the threat, because there is the risk, like you said. And added to that, even though they boast that we have the employees here with the skills, that cannot be so, because I don't know of any cyber schools here in the Bahamas.
No, that's not so.
Because even the ones that are coming here based on their knowledge from dealing with the technology and how it works. Now, to transition all of that into making banking and investment into this new innovative style of doing business is something that we have not been taught that.
And then we have the increased likelihood of ransomware attacks.
Yes.
I attended an AML conference, a compliance aid conference last week, and I can't remember how many hits he said that like persons were receiving just through some type of ransomware attack in terms of like cryptocurrency, and how many you know, hacks people were doing, but the numbers were basically through the roof. So yeah, all of that is increased, of course.
Yeah.
So Ms. Archer, piggybacking what you said earlier, the comment about that you don't think that the industry, we have the persons with requisite qualifications and for this new thing that we're doing, because I had a looked at the profile of the chief compliance officer the other day for FTX, and I saw where she had gotten, I guess, some crypto qualifications, some a site called Chain Analysis, and I was just thinking, you know, okay, I myself might need to do something similar. So my question is BIFs, are they making any movements with all of this new developments to offer courses relative to cryptocurrency and assets?
Yes, they are looking into that. Yes. But what I'm saying is the horse already bolted out the gate, whereby internationally mentioned that we have that skill base here. So now the gates are flooded. Everybody's coming in here.
And they
So
go on.
Yeah. So now you gotta find if you can't find the staff with the skill sets, that means they're going to bring them in.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, we're going to be at a disadvantage because we are trained up to deal with it as yet.
Right, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. We're not. That's why I looked at her qualifications to see, okay, what does she have that may need to be duplicated by others or by BIS introducing similar products so that we can, you know, like you said, the horse is already gone. We're already having conferences. We're already bringing. The other day, I had an opportunity to take part in a training with the SCB relative to the rules for the DARE Act that they just promulgated, and Christina Rowe was saying how there's 3 crypto related companies already open, and they have 10 in the pipeline with more to come.
Yeah.
So it's coming fast.
Yeah, it's coming fast, and at the same time, they should have been dealing with all these other things. Have these so-called skilled people ready and ready to join. I mean, where people coming out of high school that knows how to deal with IT. They missed 2.5 years. Some still can't read and write. And those who can read and write say they're not coming back. So where's the skilled workforce?
I would like to know that question myself. Answer that question myself.
Yeah, so that's another thing, because even if you look at like the unit speaks about disruption, like threat to traditional taxi services, and it's true. What if you have a group of 5 people who come here and they decide they won't pay by crypto? What a taxi driver can say, you better give me my money, or do you have a credit? But you see that, because these young people are walking around with crypto. They're not walking around with credit cards.
Right.
And we do not even have a Bitcoin ATM machine here. So that's something for you all to think about. Any more comments? No? Maria? It's very quiet. Okay, so let's go back to our questions. So that's something for you all to think about. The next step after you finish this GRC, to move into this new innovative world of using blockchain now for banking and finance and investments. So question 4 says, research, risk leadership, risk appetite, and risk stewardship as key success factors for the effective management of regulatory risk. Prepare an explanation of how these shape a firm's approach in managing regulatory risk. So they're asking you, how does risk leadership, risk appetite, and risk stewardship shape a company's regulatory risk and how they manage it. So this is another 3 sets of words that you could use in talking about managing regulatory risk. Because remember now, that is what your competitor is faced with. He has a regulatory risk. So how does risk leadership, risk appetite, and risk stewardship, how do they help frame a company's regulatory risk and how you manage it? Simone, you want to stop at that?
No, you know, I want to start with that.
Why? Just going to help you with writing your paper.
I know, but I slunk on this chapter.
You didn't read.
I did like weeks ago, so that ain't still in my head.
Oh my God! But this is a very important chapter.
I know. So I have to read this chapter again. But I remember what I read. I can't even lie.
Saran, because I know he hard on finishing this paper.
That may be the case, but I wasn't answering every question.
No, I don't know where your colleagues are. Are they eating breakfast? Oh, hello, Omar. No answer.
Maybe we need to give them a 10-minute break and then reconvene.
No, you see, okay. What I don't want is for people to start sending me papers and asking questions 2 weeks before this is due.
Right.
You all had me before. I like to build. As we go, we build. As we find things in chapters, we add to it. If you come and you give me your full paper at the very end, there are things even I can miss. Because you build as you go. That's how these questions are designed. They're not a pickup, write an answer and let it go. And that's why I like students to participate. Now, I know you can always listen to the recording afterwards, but you get even more if you participate. Okay, so do I really need to give a 10-minute break? We just started. It's almost time to wrap up because I'm not getting any responses. Okay, risk leadership. I know you know what that is, Saran. That's the tone from the top.
I do.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll take my stab at the question. Risk leadership, risk appetite, and risk stewardship as key success factors for the effective management of regulatory risk. Prepare an explanation of how the shape of firms approach in managing regulatory risk. Well, like we said earlier, you have to know your firm's appetite. That's the most, I think, important central question. You need to know what risk the firm is willing to take. And I guess for stewardship, that's more about, as the word kind of implies, you have to, what's the word? You have to be a steward of the risk once you've already figured out what the appetite is. And stewardship, as they have here, the definition of here is conducting, supervising, or managing of something. So you have to be, as a risk department, you have to, once the appetite has been set, it's your responsibility to make sure that everything is working, that you store the relationship so that at the end of the day, like we said earlier, you have to be able to communicate with the relevant partners. You have to communicate with senior management and the board to let them know this is our company's risk appetite. This is what where we're focusing, and these are the tools we're going to use to make sure that we stay in line with what we already identified as our risk appetite, our business profile. And so you need to know your appetite. You need to be stores of it so you could see where you going off course and when you're going in the right direction, so that you'll be able to help senior management, I'm sorry, and the board fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities.
Okay. So when you start off and you start writing to the board, you're gonna let them know what are the KRIs. Remember on your draft, I put where the risk.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to let the board know what are the key risks.
Yes.
Because then that focuses their mind on, okay, if this is the key risk, then what are the other underlying risks, and how does that impact the bottom line?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the key thing when it comes to risk leadership, which is the tone from the top, the risk appetite, and of course the risk stewardship. And the risk stewardship speaks to make sure you engage everyone in that whole risk exposure. Make sure it is communicated. Everybody knows what the risks are and who is responsible for what. And who is the person who's going to be reporting on that risk? Because that could be one of the issues in this scenario. No one knows who should be reporting and why should they be reporting.
Ms. Archer, I have a general question.
Go ahead.
So, you know, a lot of companies out there that, you know, I and others have worked for, it's like, you don't get to, I don't know what's the word, actively participate in this risk stewardship learning, what you have to do, because most of the information tends to be contained at the top, tends to be contained in senior management. I'm not talking about the information that line staff shouldn't be aware of, but just a general overall view of what the company is, what we're about, where we're going, so that you could kind of understand your part in this whole risk management process. In the Bahamas, generally speaking, it seems that, you know, that is something that's held tight, if done at all, up in the management echelons, and it's never filtered down to the grass level, so that we can get this whole process where everybody buys into the organization. And that just seems to be a general weakness of our, I don't know, system in general. How do we overcome that? I mean, because like I said, certain companies, they tell you hardly next to nothing. So you don't know where you're going wrong or can assist the company.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's cultural.
So
every is different.
Yeah. But then, like I said, now in this new environment, what's coming, which we talked about earlier, how do we overcome that? Because these guys, they used to, like, everybody's involved from the top to the bottom. It appears in this new crypto arena. Everybody, like, they have open.
Yeah, everything is open. It's borderless.
Yeah.
It's borderless. So if I'm having a conversation with you right now on an issue, right? Anyone can stop in and chime in. Oh, I heard you say this. These are thoughts. That's how they're working now. Everything is borderless.
Right.
They how globalization started. You remember? No one knew what was happening in other countries. You just had to wait. Now you can hear it as it happens. You could watch it as it's going on. That's how they do business. It's borderless. There's no closed room door and no. It's everybody just speaking their mind. So it's a different culture. So it's like anything in life. As things change, you either keep up with the change or you get left behind. And that's what's happening now. The whole way in which we do business is changing. If this crypto can sustain itself for at least another 20 to 25 years, you'll see the whole landscape of business change.
So I'm just thinking of past experiences. That's going to be very difficult to do because you have a lot of, like you said, green mindset of people who are not flexible to meet those changes.
Yes, but if, like I said, you look at the clientele, you don't change, you get pushed out the way. because they're not going to do business with you.
True.
So it's either you keep up or you phase out. It'd be just like someone operating a store. You keep doing things your old way. You do inventory by checking your sheets. When you place your order, you driving down a sheet of paper. Them days over.
Yes.
The big company who could just put it in the computer and let it go and delivery is made and pay for the service, they have all the new stock. What happens? People go to the new store, right? Okay. And the old one eventually die down and close out. That's business.
True.
That is business. So let's go to question number 2. Describe how you would apply the risk assessment process to a risk you have identified in your firm or organization, which is your assignment. What would your high, medium, and low parameters be for impact and probability? Isn't that your assignment?
Yes.
Okay, so your assignment is on unit 7. Simone, which means you must read again.
For sure. I will.
Because in section 2 on page 240, it speaks about understanding regulatory risk. And then it also talks about compliance and regulatory risk, explaining what they are. And then they talk about GRC and why we need to manage regulatory risk, because that's what the competitors face with, regulatory risk. And then it talks about having an effective RRM, regulatory risk management framework. So you see the kind of language you need to use in your papers?
Yes,
So you have,
ma'am.
Yes.
right. So when you speak about your very first action you're going to take, you put risk assessment. But really, is that the very first step you're going to take? That could be what you've written, both of you written on your draft, could be a step within your RRM. You understand?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So go back. So when you read unit 7, you would see regulatory risk, you see RRM, and a part of RRM is your risk management process. And then it tells you that in certain organizations, they would use principles. They base their risk management on certain standardized principles. You don't have to go that deep because the board won't understand what you're talking about. But you need to be able to explain to the examiner the stages in the risk management process. So you talk about your immediate action and why you would take it. Now you've already given, I think Saran gave some examples, but you want to say, you want to let the examiner know that based upon the product that you've used and other products and services that the company offers, you would actually undertake a risk assessment, going through the steps of risk identification, risk description, evaluation, and then the monitoring, including the policies and procedures, setting up a process for review, internal audit. And then in part 2, remember where I told you, Saran, to mention risk? You got to talk about all the critical risks that comes from the conclusion from your risk assessment. So just like how when we discussed last week, we said, yes, there's a regulatory risk, but there's also reputational risk.
Yes.
Right, financial risk. So all those risks you have to talk about. So when you now talk about your short and medium and long term, let the examiner know that you understand the type of reporting that you need to keep in order to have your risk management framework be proactive and not reactive. So you could talk about risk mapping, how often you're going to report to the board, how often you're going to do risk assessment. That's what they're looking for. What tools are you going to use to demonstrate to the board and keep the board aware of what it should know?
Okay.
Right, so include in your strategy, your reporting to the board and how you intend to report.
Okay.
And of course, Simone mentioned it in her liaisons, but make sure, like I said, this is GRC. This question is on the R. You have to speak about the G because the G is part 2, but also as a part of part 1, when you talk about your immediate action and your liaison, there is the C. Because it's obvious that C also fell down on what they're supposed to do. So from the governance part, you're talking about senior management reporting to the board, tone from the top coming down. From the R, you're talking about having a regulatory risk management framework in place and doing a risk assessment. And then from the C part, the compliance component is also not done because policies and procedures should have been in place.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have made sure that risk assessments were being done because they also have a risk assessment to do. So one of the things that you can ask or state in your strategies at part 2D is you should always have an annual compliance plan because that tells you what compliance is going to be doing for the year. And you report that to the board. And the annual compliance plan would also look at the risk areas and where things need to be amended or gaps are being identified. If there are any breaches, compliance should be the one that reports to the board. Okay, don't breathe hard, Saran.
No, I was just writing as you were speaking. And that
Okay.
was that's what that whom was for.
Oh, I thought it was a whom. Oh my God.
No. I was writing. Sorry. Should have muted.
So do I have any questions? So Simone, you know how to go from here now, right?
I think so.
Okay. So read the chapter again.
Mm-hmm.
Build on what you wrote, make your corrections, and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the more you write it, the more you begin to understand what the examiner is looking for.
Right.
And then like how Saran has done his first draft, he can take some of all of those long words he wrote and put them in risk language.
Right. Okay.
Because he'll see that a lot of stuff that he explained, just risk tolerance.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we write it first, so you know what you're talking about, and then put it in the right language.
Right. Okay.
Anybody else with questions? No? So next week is the role of the compliance function. You could use this in part 1, bullet point 2, when you talk about who to liaise with and why. I think, Simone, you did part of it in yours.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, identified. So this is just an expansion on that. And so you may see something in here you can use when we go through Unit 8,
Okay, good.
to put it in compliance language.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any questions from you, Saran?
Not at this point. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I would say have a great Saturday. And reread Unit 7 and read Unit 8, because we'll go over the questions at the back. Let me see if they put any in here. Yes, they did. They have 4, and we'll do those. Okay?
Excuse me, Miss Archer, can I have your email again, please?
In the thing, in the invite. Look in the
Oh,
invite.
okay.
Yeah, it's right in there. Right in the invite. CM Archer. You see it?
Okay,
Let
I'm
me know.
gonna check right now.
Check. Yeah, let me know.
Okay, yes, ma'am, I see it.
Okay. That's good.
Thank you.
All right. So enjoy your weekend. Get cracking, please. Do not wait until the last minute.
Thank you, you too.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day. Enjoy your
Okay.
weekend.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.